Good evening, friends, and welcome to our nightly meditation practice. As we do each night, we will begin by paying homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Again, thank you for joining me tonight for meditation practice. I mentioned to you last night that I am taking a course through Buddhist Studies Online on Indian Buddhist philosophy. It's been very interesting. One of the reading assignments from that is the sutta that I want to read tonight, called The Burden, from the Samyutta Nikaya 22.22. So I will share that with you now, and we will read that together. So it goes like this. At Sawati, there the Blessed One said this: Bhikkhus, I will teach you the burden, the carrier of the burden, the taking up of the burden, and laying down of the burden. Listen to that. And what, bhikkhus, is the burden? It should be said the 5 aggregates, subject to clinging. What 5? The form aggregate, subject to clinging. The feeling aggregate, subject to clinging. The perception aggregate, subject to clinging. The volitional formations aggregate, subject to clinging. The consciousness aggregate, subject to clinging. This is called the burden. And what, bhikkhus, is the carrier of the burden? It should be said the person, this venerable one, of such and such a name and clan. This is called the carrier of the burden. And what, bhikkhus, is the taking up of the burden? It is this craving that leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there. That is craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for extermination. This is called the taking up of the burden. And what, bhikkhus, is the laying down of the burden? It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that same craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-reliance on it. This is called the laying down of the burden. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Fortunate One, the teacher, further said this: the 5 aggregates are truly burdens. The burden carrier is the person. Taking up the burden is suffering in the world. Laying the burden down is blissful. Having laid the heavy burden down without taking up another burden, having drawn out craving with its root, one is free from hunger, fully quenched. So the reason why this sutta was part of our reading assignments, because we were studying the Pugalavadins and their philosophy of self, which was not easily identified, and which in early Indian times, from about the 3rd century before the Common Era, the Pugalavadins were of a school that had a hard time dealing with the Buddha's teaching of not self. And now I grant you, in my opinion, most schools of thought have a hard time dealing with the not self. I have long argued, and I think it remains true, that the Buddha never said there was no self. He simply taught that these 5 aggregates and all the things that build up these 5 aggregates are not self, that they are all dependently arisen, and that which is dependently arisen is not the self, is not a self. So this sutta was given as an example of when the Buddha specifically refers to a self. So when he says, and what bhikkhus is the carrier of the burden, it should be said the person. This venerable one of such and such name and clan, this is called the carrier of the burden. So he clearly identified something, an entity, a person. And so then it gets very semantical whether or not a person is a self. You see why it can be philosophically problematic. Again, I relate it to emptiness and the fact that those things which are considered empty are those things which are dependently arisen, because the self is dependently arisen, or these five aggregates that we call the heap together. In a common parlance, we call those the self. Because they are dependently arisen, then they cannot be an eternal self. So, because they are dependently arisen, they are empty, and because they are empty, they are not eternal. That is my philosophy or understanding of the Buddhist philosophy on that. So anyway, we're going to transition now directly into meditation, and perhaps that gives you something to meditate on. We will meditate for 20 minutes tonight. I've been studying the Dharma for a couple of hours now, and I need to get to bed a little bit earlier tonight. Tomorrow is Mason's first day of school. I did lay down with him and get him to sleep a little while ago. So now it's my turn to meditate and to move on. So I wish you a peaceful, happy meditation. May you find that empty mind. May you find that rise and fall of the abdomen, the in and out breath, whatever it is that you are monitoring as you meditate. May you find happiness and peace in that. So with that, we will begin our meditation practice. Bodhicitta prayer. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening, for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you for practicing with me tonight, and I hope you have a good evening, and join me again tomorrow night, which will start a little bit late like I did tonight because we have our Zen practice with Single Flower Zen tomorrow night. So again, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.